Hey, everybody, it's the Plant-Based Business Hour. I'm Elysabeth Alfano, excited to have you with me. I am live on the road. That's right. I'm at the Buhler headquarters, North America, just outside of Minneapolis, St. Paul. Buhler, of course, as we all know, really a central figure to helping manufacturers get the best market share they can, make the best products as they can as a solutions provider up and down this supply chain. So today I'm at a Buhler open house. They do them about every 3 or 4 months. The reason I like to come to the Buhler open houses is that I like to interview randomly different participants here during the open house to see just who's doing what and what their predictions are for the future, what innovations are down the pipeline, and just take a smattering of who's really innovating for the future of plant-based food. So today we're going to look at the life cycle of plant-based protein, starting from the beginning, ending with packaging, and then we'll walk ourselves to the future with an interview with Andy Sharpe, CEO and president of Buhler himself. We'll get past plant-based and walk into the future of food. But of course, we start at the beginning, which means I bring on Daniel Kennedy. He is the Global Business Development Director of Plant-Based Protein at Ingredion. That's right, Ingredion, of course, ingredients, the premium ingredient supplier to plant-based products and others. So we start here with Dan. Dan, thanks for being with me.
Oh, thanks for making the trip to Minnesota, Liz.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here, of course. I would not miss a Buhler open house for anything.
Right.
Okay, so as we talk about plant-based proteins, let me understand from you, you being Ingredion, recently invested big in plant-based proteins. This year you opened a plant-based pea ingredient plant in South Sioux City, Nebraska. It opened March of this year. Is pea the big ingredient that you're betting on, and what else might be coming down the pipeline?
So pea is one of our biggest bets, but we are also betting on faba and chickpea as other bases. So we actually just opened up our Vanscoy facility, which is kind of a revamp of our investment in Verdient Foods. So we are pivoting and adding, along with pea, very clean tasting faba and chickpea protein, which we call ultra performance, because not just flavor is coming from this, but it's also a process that's going to make it easier to use for manufacturers, less micro load, better performance. And so on top of pea, we're looking at chickpea and faba as kind of our next bases to go along with pea to optimize performance for consumers. Along with that, also looking at quinoa and lentil, as well as kind of some future bets for our product portfolio.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. I think of lentil as the highest in protein of almost anything out there per weight. If it's not lentil, it's very close to lentil. So yeah.
Quinoa is right up there too.
Quinoa is right up there as well. Yeah, and personal fan here of chickpea and fava beans. So what is driving, so much of what is made currently in the plant-based space is wheat and soy. What is driving this change to, I'll say, a more diverse ingredient base?
So I think allergens, number one. So I think you have some major allergens with wheat and soy. I think there's also, the GMO aspect is always front and center when looking at these. I think culturally too, I think you have some cultures that are very soy positive and some that are not as high on soy. Sure. Especially when soy, and you look at some of the growing regions and impact on environment, rainforest that's been cleared for soy is always typically an issue as well. There's taste too. I think there's taste associated with wheat. There's taste associated with soy that drives people to other bases, especially when we look at along the product range. So soy might be great for some things, but I think when you get into alt dairy, alt meat, some of these bases might be better suited. And especially when you start looking at combinations too, of getting that protein quality up, getting those PDA-Cas up, it really is going to take a multitude of bases to really hit some of these key achievements that consumers are looking for. And so, I think that's why being diverse in this area, especially looking across product lines, is going to be really key as we look forward on plant-based foods, satisfying the consumer need for something different, something that's more earth friendly, and something that tastes great on top of everything else.
Yeah, so much to unpack there. I love that you say satisfying the consumer first. It used to be large multinational food corporations would say, okay, you're going to eat that and you're going to eat that. And now it's really the consumer using their dollars and their educated voice. A lot of people were home during COVID doing a lot of Googling and a lot of cooking. And so you have this educated consumer base you didn't have before. I'm wondering, as consumer is king and as brand story matters now more than it ever did before at Plant Powered Consulting. I just work with so many brands on making sure they connect directly to those consumers with that brand story. I wonder if monocropping ever comes into a story play. Ooh, are we allowed to talk about it? I don't know.
I think it depends upon the consumer. I think a lot of times when you look at something specific, there's always like this range of consumers that are one extreme to the other, like the one that doesn't care and the one that really cares, and then there's that piece in the middle. And so I think as more of those boxes you can check, and as we move forward into the millennials and the Gen Zs having more buying power, they're probably trending away from not caring as much and caring more about the input. And so things like monocropping, things like rainforest certified, these things are going to be more important front of pack. And we are seeing that from customers that say, this is what's important today, but this is what our expectation of consumers is. And show that effort that they're always trying. And so being part of that trying process for customers, the big multinationals, the startups, of saying we are trying to improve this, whether it be from the ingredient side, so less monocropping, from the packaging side, less waste, less water usage. So all of this is important in terms of what the consumer and customers are looking for.
Yeah. So as a marketer, you really had me at brand story.
Yeah.
No, but I'm not kidding. Research just came out from Innova Market Insights, and it was reiterated by the Good Food Institute. It seems that interest in the environment has just surpassed interest in health as a move to plant-based foods. So I think that's very interesting as people start to think beyond their own health, which of course is so important, but they also start to think about the environment, and that's maybe the number one driver. So interesting. Okay, so back to front of pack. I thought that was interesting what you were saying. So you're seeing, let me rephrase. Do you see ingredients as being a main storyline for brands? So think about Intel Inside. Remember that when no one knew what a semiconductor was or a computer chip, or I'm still not sure I totally know, to be quite honest there, but okay, somebody knows, it's not me. But they were, you had that what's inside marketed as the real winner. You're going to see that for ingredients?
Oh, absolutely. I think we're already seeing it. I think I've noticed a few test markets, particularly in Europe, where believe it or not, I think even pea has already seen some of a shelf life. And so there is a particular, at least two customers I can think of that have been highlighting a different plant-based protein front of pack to say this is different and here's why. And so I think we are already there. And I think it's coming in terms of the ingredients that they're using and what story that ingredient tells, whether it's locally sourced, whether it's water usage or plant friendly, earth friendly type of ingredients.
Yeah. So how exciting that before it used to be just you should eat this and we're not really telling you what's in here. Now, from the marketing perspective, we have all this opportunity to tell all these stories, and they're all great stories. Okay, but before you can get to front of pack, you do have to have a high performing protein. But of course, before high performing protein, you first need taste. So taste being that's a no brainer. What do you talk to me again? You mentioned it a little bit before, but talk to me again about the top 3 things you look for in performance out of a protein.
So I think taste is number one, of course. And then I think you want to understand the job that it does in the food. So if it's dairy, does it need to be less viscous so it goes into a fluidized form? If you're going to plant-based meat, does it need to build structure so you can mimic the collagen or the meat structure that you might? And then, obviously, can you make money at it in the process to start part of it? And that's very selfish to us, but I think it also extends to the company or the customer that's manufacturing the product. So the big multinational, does that ingredient allow them to enter that market space and replace that eating occasion, that share of stomach that makes sense for the consumer? And are they willing to pay that price? And I think this is one of the biggest challenges we have with plant-based meat right now is it's still such a small sliver, is how do you make it affordable for everybody else? And so I think affordability probably is in that third bucket in terms of not necessarily today, because I think you got to start somewhere, but does the lens extend long enough to the field, to the manufacturing process, to the ease of use by the end user to make money, to be affordable to the end consumer? I think it has to be part of that equation as well. So you have taste, functionality, but that affordability has to be part of that story as well.
Yes, sure, of course. Do you see that consumers currently are willing to pay a premium? But of course, that would be a much smaller market, so it doesn't help you in the long run. But currently, are they willing to pay a premium for, let's say, a quinoa or a chickpea?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the repeatability is key. So I think it's not 100% of the time, but they are willing to make that trade-off 2 to 5 times a week, depending upon, where that scale of I care to I don't care, or I care just a little bit. They are willing to make those trade-offs. And I think you look at the success of an Impossible Burger, you look at the success of Beyond Meat, it's occurring, and especially when they start looking at quick serve restaurants like a Burger King, they're getting into the space too. And there is that willingness to pay more for these options.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time. So, like a lot of plant-based companies, Ingredion has a lot on its plate, very literally. What do you see is the future for Ingredion? Do you see getting into fermented proteins, any of this kind of stuff, as you partner with a lot of companies?
Well, we're already there, Liz. So
You are.
yeah, so we have our
Who has kept this from me?
so we have our partnership with Clara Foods, who changed their name to the Every Company. So we are working with them. We have invested in them, and we're their commercial arm. So we are going out. So they launched their Pepsin product, which was earlier this year, and then should have some new developments in yet 2021 and 2022 into this space, because I think we recognize plant-based protein, making functionality, doing protein combinations is really helpful and useful, but it's not for every consumer, because there is some trade-offs, at least for the next, 2 to 5 years. And so can you get into the non-animal animal protein space to satisfy that consumer that isn't willing to make any trade-offs, but really wants to be earth friendly, but still wants their meat and potatoes, their egg omelet? So we're looking at that space as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting. They do want it all, and they're no dummies. The consumer is really educated. It's a very exciting time. But you mentioned Clara Foods. Every company,
yeah.
every company now,
Yeah.
and I've interviewed them. I do love them and what they're up to. Talk to me a little bit about the kind of partnerships that you're cultivating out there as you see yourself more than just an ingredient supplier, but really a partner in crime.
So I think it ranges from, being, the joint venture to the M&A type of aspect, to partnerships, working with somebody like a Buhler, where, if they are looking to set up their manufacturing, can we be, I think Mike, my boss, uses a great example of the soda stream. So they make the soda stream, we do the packet. So if somebody's looking to do texturized meat or high moisture extrusion, Ingredion is uniquely set up where we can be that insert or that flavor packet that they just add the water. We have the starches, we have the plant-based protein, we have the gums, the colors from our Kerr concentrates line, that we can be a one-stop shop for that system to go into that soda stream or that equipment that a manufacturer might use.
Well, Godspeed. There's more consumer demand than there are products, so I'm not kidding. Get to it. You got to get busy. Before I let you go, a couple of quick exit questions. I wish we had more time together today. Predictions for the marketplace the next 3 to 5 years. That can be in the ingredient space or really anything. Where do you see the market the next 3 to 5 years?
I think, as we've seen fad diets come out, I think there will be a sustainability diet, if it's not already upon us, is that you will see that being a measure of people's purchasing power. And so it's not the health of me, which is already here, but the health of the planet, the health of the world around me. I really think that if somebody hasn't coined this already, and maybe they can take my note here, but I think we will see a sustainability diet moving forward in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, it's really exciting because I haven't heard about it as a sustainability diet. I've heard about it more as like a carbon tax, or maybe front of pack, your carbon footprint. But I like sustainability diet. I'll go with that. Okay, now really, really seriously, 2 extra questions. I don't want you to go, but I'm pushing you out the door. 2 quickies. You're having a bad day. Is there a phrase you tell yourself to get yourself back in the groove?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think it's I've been around the industry long enough that to say, like, it's temporary. Things tend to be cyclical. And I think the thing that's most exciting about right now is that I'm seeing a lot of recycling of ideas, but they're actually sticking. So some things I might have seen 10, 12 years ago and working in the plant-based space with brands like Morningstar and Boca that didn't take hold 10 years ago are actually moving forward because there's investment in it. I think you have people's awareness. And so that gets me really excited when I see somebody like an Ashton Kutcher or Leo DiCaprio making headlines because I'm sure they make a lot of investments, but they're making specific investments into the sustainable protein space.
Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, there are a lot of celebs coming on board. It's an exciting time. Okay, this is the last question. You're super busy. You're running around just like today at Buhler at the open house. You don't have time for lunch. What is your go-to snack?
So my favorite is Take Two Foods has a barley milk, which I just absolutely love. It's great in coffee, but on its own, the chocolate is phenomenal. And so it is actually from the spent grains from the beer production for AB InBev. And so it's a barley protein, but a very good milk. It does a fantastic coffee. So I like the versatility of it, both as like, let's say a 12-ounce drink to get me through lunch or breakfast. And then also in my coffee, it's fantastic.
Did you say chocolate barley milk?
Yeah, I did. Chocolate barley milk.
Take Two?
Take Two Foods, yeah.
I'm on it.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. Dan, thanks for being with me. I really appreciate it. I'll have you come back. It'd be great.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Okay, we are moving down the plant-based protein product line. Hey, everybody. Hope you're having a good time live at the Buhler open house today. So as we move down the product life cycle of the plant-based protein, I want to bring on Scott Cowger. Thanks for being here. Just sliding in from the airport today. It's a very dynamic kind of day at Buhler. Make sure you are front and center here. You are the National VP of Sales. All right. Love that title. I have so many questions for you.
Okay.
You are the linchpin to what we're seeing now in the marketplace.
Yes.
There is not enough co-manufacturing going on. Let me start with you first. Oh, I apologize. Dan Cowger is the VP of National Sales of Cereal Ingredients Incorporated.
And
you do
actually, we've just recently moved to CII Foods.
CII Foods.
Yeah.
Okay.
So trying to tell a bigger story.
Yep.
Basically, we have grown as a company. We now have 7 manufacturing lines, 7 twin screw extruders, where we manufacture cold extruded color and flavored inclusions, but also recently gotten more into the plant-based proteins and the plant-based crisp areas.
Mm-hmm.
So
as a co-manufacturer, correct?
Co-manufacturer and a direct supplier as well.
Okay.
B2B business as well. So
good to know about both for sure.
Yep.
I want to understand the co-manufacturing part because that really is the linchpin that is holding so much up. Can you keep up with demand for co-manufacturing?
Actually, we can keep up with demand, and now the problem is getting ingredients in, as everyone else is faced with. That's the biggest challenge we have right now is raw material supply. So there is all the ports are full, as everyone knows. Well, those are full of a lot of plant-based proteins, because what everybody may not know is most of the yellow peas in the world are grown in Canada, but there's to date, very few processed in North America, where most of those are either manufactured either in China or sent overseas and processed as well for the extraction process. But I do know that there's companies such as Ingredion, who was just here, who are working on bringing a facility up to speed, as well as a few other manufacturers.
Hurry, Ingredion, hurry on. It's very exciting. So still COVID implications coming through in supply chain.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of challenges. There's been a lot of the ports, like I said, the ports are shut down, but then also there's transportation issues in America. And as everyone knows, there's even employment issues. So,
yes. Yeah. We're seeing a lot of that.
For everyone.
Yes, most definitely. Okay, but as we talk about co-manufacturing, I hear, because I do a lot of consulting to plant-based brands, I hear a lot of brands say, I can't find a co-manufacturer. Either they don't have the skill set, they don't have the equipment, there's fear for IP. So what are you seeing out there in the marketplace that is curtailing the ability to scale?
Curtailing the ability to scale. Basically, like I said, it's still ingredient challenges, and then obviously trying to manufacture the product to what they're looking for, because everything has to be customized for said customer, and everybody has a different idea. You don't really think about it, but there's different hydration levels, different moisture levels. Everybody wants a different granulation. Everybody wants to be unique, and that in turn gets into your IP situation, which we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis with each customer. And
how do you protect IP?
Basically, there's a number of, obviously you start with the whole NDA process, and then the way that we handle it is every customer is unique. So therefore, their screw configuration is unique to them. Their formulas are unique to them. The one thing that I hold IP to my vest is no screw configurations are shared with customers. So therefore, we know you talk about scaling up, expertise and knowing how to achieve certain texturization of different products and protein levels too. And there's challenges with each different protein as well, from wheat to soy to pea to chickpea to fava to even recently mung bean.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of mung bean out there, which is very interesting.
Yes.
And water lentils, duckweed is out there too.
Yeah, actually, we've started some initial conversations on the duckweed front too.
Yes,
So.
it's going to be interesting to see where all of that goes. Are you seeing demand from small, relatively speaking, individual plant-based companies? Or are you seeing it from the big meat and dairy companies that are getting in?
Both really. There's a number of startup companies that are getting into the plant-based area, but then there's a number of large companies who are trying to carve their own niche as well. So I mean, it is actually both. And then there's been even some recent conversations with a couple of dairy-based products, which presents itself its own challenges.
Straight dairy, or you mean plant-based dairy?
Plant-based dairy. There's even been some conversations with what they're calling a non-animal whey ingredient as well.
Very excited. So you're talking about fermented proteins there, right? Precision fermentation of proteins, yes?
For the most part, yeah. I'm not
at liberty to say.
Protect, I could tell you, but then, then it's an eater show. So,
well, for both of our safety, don't say anything.
No, obviously, fermented proteins are definitely becoming a bigger part of the whole process as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most exciting things for me is non-animal dairy. Come on, Lucky 7. I'm looking for blue cheese. I'm looking for Camembert. I'm looking for the great stuff.
I mean, there's a number of those products that are coming to the forefront. And then there's, some traditional whey-based crisp as well as, texturized products that they're looking to, everybody wants their piece of the marketplace.
And the marketplace is going to be 100% replaced, I believe, by these things that are so much more efficient with resources and in time nailing the same taste.
Well, I've had this conversation with a number of folks, and I don't believe that the animal protein will ever get replaced.
Ooh, I'm taking bets. Okay. You and I are going to wager on this.
I'll take the bet only because in 2050, there's going to be 9 billion people in the world, correct? How do we feed them all?
That's right. You use your resources much more efficiently.
Resources, but you're still going to have enough protein sources for everyone. So I think we have to develop the plant-based and the sustainable products, as well as figure out a way to be more efficient in the animal protein category as well.
Okay, it's a thumb wrestling match here. Yeah,
but I mean, that's a conversation that I had. Actually, was part of the Food Manufacturing Association panel as well. So I mean, alternative proteins are definitely going to be a very key part to the marketplace going forward. But I don't think we'll have a complete turnover in the marketplace in the next 20 years.
In the next 20 years. No, I would agree with that. I would say in my lifetime, I'm giving it 30 to 40 years, I would say the majority would be plant-based because it's so efficient.
Yeah, it's more of a sustainable marketplace. But I mean, we do have to feed the world. Yeah. And that's really the key to the whole process. And that's where I think we provide a key, because there's a number of people that can make isolates. And there's a number of folks who are taking products to the marketplace. There's not a number of folks who are taking the plant-based isolates and concentrates and converting them into some type of texturized format. And that's really where we have found our unique niche in the marketplace.
Noted. Because again, in my consulting work, so many people come to me and say, I'm frustrated. Help me find a co-manufacturer. So CerealCii Foods.
We've been very fortunate to surround ourselves with a lot of folks who have a lot of experience in this area as well. So as a matter of fact, one of our lead extrusion guys actually spent almost 10 years working here at Buhler, and he was one of the customer service or the technical folks here. And now he's assisting us in moving forward.
Keeping it in the family. What do you say?
That's the crazy thing. We now, what was it? It'd be 6 years ago, had no Buhler extruders, and now we have 5 of them.
Yay! Buhler back to being the central figure in the supply chain.
Yeah, and actually we are in the process of putting in a new factory ourselves up in St. Joe where we'll start making clusters and granola products as well. So,
Okay, so you're expanding
we're
out as well.
diversifying our product portfolio, which will actually lend itself to additional tools to provide additional components for the plant-based world. So
It's so very exciting. What do you say to plant-based companies? Because I see a lot of this where they say, I'm just not ready to share my IP, or I'm concerned about being in a shared space, or I just don't think the technology is out there for me. I'm going to build my own plant.
good luck. Only because of with the way things are set up with FSMA and the footprint it takes to get yourself established.
FSMA? Sorry,
Food
what?
Safety Modernization Act. Sorry. But I mean, I think because you have to, with the regulatory regulations, QC, and just all the technology, because you can't just feed the extruder and think that something's coming out the other end without a lot of knowledge with regards to getting it from point A to point B and point C, basically out of the dryer into the packaging line, or even on the wet extrusion side, out of the extruder into the frozen space, and then, condition the finished processing, I guess.
Yeah, and it's also the expertise needed to do it, and then it's the we talked about shortages in labor, so then it's finding the people who have the knowledge and who are willing to run a plant, which doesn't stop on the weekend. So it's not a fun job,
actually,
really.
It's not a great. I mean, there's been a number of conversations where people are like, oh, well, don't you want to get into operations? No. Friends don't let friends work operations, or retail for that matter. But no, I'm just kidding. But actually, that is the challenge: is the technology front, as well as establishing yourself in the marketplace and understanding how to take your isolates and your concentrates and your flours and converting them into an application that'll actually work. Like we briefly talked about moisture granulation and then the hydration levels. Because I mean, that's a whole nother entity in itself.
Yeah. And I love to see companies that are small in particular, just not have that on their plate. First of all, not spend the investment dollars, but also be able to farm that out to the experts so that they can do the job of making their product.
Absolutely. That's the real key, is that they're the ones who need the most assistance in taking their unique product and putting it into a format that can be utilized in a retail format. So, I mean, I think that's really that would be my recommendation for folks who are needing assistance. I mean, feel free to reach out to folks. There are folks out in the industry who can assist them, and we'll do everything in our power from a legal standpoint to protect your intellectual property.
Okay, so we've got options. You don't have to go it alone. As we
actually want to be your partner. That's really the key. I don't want to be in the isolate and the concentrate format, and I don't want to be in the finished burger format for the folks that are out there in the retail space. I want to help be the conduit that gets them to connect those two portions of the market.
It does take a village, and such an important part you are, which is why we started this conversation saying, like, you're the linchpin and we need more of you.
Absolutely. And I think and actually the new facility that we're building will have 3 additional production bays with the thought process of adding additional extrusion capacity as needed, because we are actually a kosher par facility. So if we get into the dairy space, we'll need more of a kosher dairy or a dairy oriented line to manufacture those products.
Plant-based is kosher already. Do I have that right? I don't know.
We talked about even your non-dairy animal proteins are still kosher dairy. So therefore you have to have some type of manufacturing facility that can facilitate the manufacturing of dairy-based products, your wheys, and even your non-animal based dairy products.
It's very exciting. I think it's very exciting.
I mean, this gets back to the whole technology front, and and also having the knowledge to help people through the marketplace.
As we round up for you, again, I could have a conversation here with you for a very long time, but as we wrap it up with you, I'm wondering if you can also give us your predictions for the marketplace. It can be in co-manufacturing and plant-based, or it can be other, it's up to you. 3 to 5 years. What do you say?
All indications are 6 to 8% growth every year. And I would guess that it could be in excess.
Cowger, I'll take that.
Category is, I would guess, and that's year over year. So I would say, in the next 3 years, probably upwards of 25 to 35% growth.
Yeah, and that's what all the investment banks are saying as well for investment funds. And
it's not slowing. That's really the key. It's not slowing at all. Actually, if anything, I probably average 3 to 5 conversations a week with new folks calling in, looking for assistance in getting into the marketplace.
Well, I take your 3 to 5 and I raise you. I probably do 5 to 7 a week of people saying we're starting a new plant-based company.
Yep.
Help.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
that's really the key.
that's why I'll be feeding you people. I'll
Okay.
be.
Well,
This sounds good. Good.
It takes a village.
Village. It does take a village.
It takes a
Okay.
village, absolutely.
As we kind of wrap up our day with you, tell me, you are having a very busy day, but it's not going well. Is there a phrase you tell yourself to get yourself back in the game?
It's just like what I'll say about the weather in Missouri. If you don't like the way things are going, wait 5 minutes, things are going to change. And I think you have to approach it that there is so many exciting things going on that even though there's bad things happening, there's so many positives to offset that. And we are being in the food industry is an exciting workplace right now, especially with the I guess the volcanic eruption of the plant-based protein world and the space that we're in, that the best way to pick yourself up is knowing that there's more opportunities, because if anyone ever comes to me and says, hey, I've got this challenge. Hey, it's not a challenge. It's an opportunity. And I think that's the best way to pick yourself up is I'm not having a bad day. I just need to seek a different opportunity.
Mm-hmm. I love your take on things. And I love what you say for the world. A lot of people have been getting negative news, COVID, et cetera.
Yeah.
Watch politics, you'll go insane.
Oh, yeah.
On either side. It doesn't really matter which party. It's just nuts
No.
all over the place. But in the plant-based world, we get good news all the time.
Absolutely.
So we're lucky.
It's an ever evolving market and it just continues to explode.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So again, on that busy day, you're running around, you don't have time for lunch. What is your go-to snack? One word.
Go-to snack. It would be the protein bars, just a protein bar.
Keeping it simple.
Yep. Keep it simple. Complete protein bar.
I like the way you roll. Scott Cowger, I want to thank you for being with me. CII Foods.com, Comanufacturing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm bringing on my next person because we are working through the life cycle of a plant-based protein. So ultimately, we have co-manufactured something and we need to get it packaged. I'm so excited about my next person here, Brett Featherston. Thank you for being with me.
Happy to be here.
Okay, so Brett is the Global Vice President of Sales for Evanesce.
Evanesce, that's correct.
Good. For a while, I was confusing you with the band Evanescence, and I no longer am doing that. Evanesce, so much to talk to you about. I'm going to give you the mic because I want to make sure that I read my notes. If you could hold this mic.
Absolutely.
Okay. I have a lot to talk about here. Sorry, I'm taking it back just for a second. Let me read my notes just for a second. You have innovative patented technology that is sustainable packaging made from upcycled food waste. It's about time. I've been wanting this for a long time. It's 100% compostable, costs almost half of other eco-friendly alternatives. It has no PFAS, no PBA. Or any other synthetic polymers. It decomposes into soil in 90 days or less, but it has a shelf life of 2 years. It has innovative bio-based coating, and it's leak-proof and heat resistance, both microwave and oven safe. How is that possible?
Well, it's a little bit of magic. It's about the product that we have. This is a sample of it, what it looks like.
We have a sample. Okay.
So our
Have
goal.
I seen these in the marketplace
Not
already?
Yet, not yet. Our goal is to replace styrofoam, or EPS, expanded polystyrene. So we've come up with something that has similar characteristics and properties to it, but it's 100% plant-based, 100% compostable. And probably what's the magic is much of it. Everybody wants to be sustainable, but to do it where it's affordable. We can do it now and make it affordable for our customers.
So what is in this exactly? And for those of you who can see, I'm going to show this to the camera. It does have, I think, what can I call them? Natural sort of perforations on it. Not perforations, but it seems that it's coming from a natural ingredient because it has natural marks. Am I saying that right?
So we're using processing waste. So for example, when you process pea protein, there's a lot of waste. There's a lot of starch and fiber waste that comes with that. We're reusing that and upcycling it to make this product.
Okay, so it's coming from food, a waste product of food.
100% plant-based, absolutely.
And how novel is this technology? In a way, I want to say, how come it took us so long?
That's a great question. So again, you talk about the novelness, is that a word? the newness, the what makes it cool is the fact that we can do it and make it affordable for our customers. You look at any big company, even small companies, everybody wants to be sustainable. It's really challenging for them to be able to do that and maintain the profit margins that they want. What really is unique about this, because it's really simple, it's patented, and there is kind of a secret sauce to it, but it's really kind of simple. But what makes it great is the fact that we can make it affordable for our customers.
Okay. Have you been rolling this out? Because you had said that I haven't seen it yet on shelves. When will we see companies really adopting this?
So we have a factory that's opening in the first part of next year, and that's when we're going to start commercializing it. Right now, we're working with our partners at Buhler to fine tune the technology and get the machinery right so that we can roll it out.
Okay. And is this packaging? So when I look at this, I think of, oh, this is a single serve item. Maybe somebody buys this in the store, then they microwave it and they have dinner on this. Is that its intention? Or are you also doing larger packaging, like replacing styrofoam in a huge box or container?
We can do both. We're going to start with items like this. So it's a standard tray. You can put meat or vegetables on that tray. We can also do cups. The good thing about it is, one, you can take different inputs into it. So it doesn't have to be pea protein. It can be other proteins. We can, or fiber, not proteins, I'm sorry, the fiber and the starch. We can take that from the pea protein process or potatoes or others. And then it has a lot of characteristics that are very similar to styrofoam. So you could make cups out of this. Eventually, we could make packaging, and you could pack your television in this. The great thing about it is, and this the way it is right now, if you threw this in your garden, it would decompose in about 36 days.
Wow. That's what's really exciting to me.
Exactly.
And even though it has a bio-based coating, what is that?
So we're testing several different coatings on it right now, just to have moisture and grease resistance to it and give it a longer shelf life. So a bio coating is a plant-based compostable coating that would help resist moisture. We're working with several different ones to find the right mix for different applications.
I think this is so exciting. In COVID, we saw so many people doing takeout, carry out, all this single-use plastic. Oh my gosh, it's just, this is revolutionary to me and very inspiring. How is it that you get the cost so low? Because really it all comes down to cost in the end for it to be adopted.
Well, because we're using waste from the processing,
sure.
That helps a lot. And because it's about 60% starch. Starch is cheaper than the fiber. So there's a lot of molded fiber out there right now, but it's kind of on the expensive side. So having more starch helps make it more affordable.
I love that. And I love that you're also finding, this probably wasn't your intention, but you are finding other options for waste than animal feed, which I know often when you take a protein, then later you end up using it for animal feed. The starch or the fiber sometimes can go that route. And so this is another opportunity. We talked about microwaving this or putting this in the oven. That's also surprising. Why doesn't it melt?
Well, in the way that it's made is working with Buhler. So they make machines for a lot of cookie manufacturers. So think about a waffle. It's baked and it's pressed together. So in the process of making this, it's baked and pressed. So it can withstand up to 400 degrees. It can withstand a microwave. It's also freezer safe.
So it can both extremes it can take.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. And then it decomposes in the ground. This is just so really inspirational, because when I think of the landfills and the oceans, forget it even making it to the landfill. Often it's just in the ocean. It's this is very exciting. Okay. So for the packaging industry, where do you see it going? Do you see mass adoption really fast of this? And will you be able to keep up?
Yeah. So a couple things on that. First of all, I think the industry is going to go more and more sustainable. It's going that way. And I think it's going to continue to go that way, if not accelerate. We see other companies out there, not necessarily as competitors, but as potential partners, where we can potentially license our technology to them so that we can have that end goal of just creating a more sustainable earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Rock on, as they say. So help me. Let's say that this was something that I bought on the shelf and I could take it home and I could microwave it. It would be covered in plastic, though, probably. I mean, so if you put your food on this, then you'll have some kind of covering around it.
So, Elizabeth, first of all, we're not going to cover our beautiful item in plastic.
Well done, sir.
That wouldn't be suiting the goal.
Thank you.
No, so there are biopolymers out there that look and act like plastic that are still plant-based and are fully compostable. So we're testing some of those. We can use beeswax. We can use a couple different items. Nothing that we sell is going to be plastic. Everything is going to be 100% plant-based, 100% compostable, and affordable.
Wow. Okay. So, sort of throwing myself under the bus here a little bit. Why haven't I heard of you before?
We're relatively new on the scene. We like to say that we're the new name in innovative packaging, sustainable innovative packaging. So we're actually have a grand opening for our first plant in South Carolina that's happening this week. We have a plant that's opening in Las Vegas very soon. And like I said, we hope to be producing this very early in 2022.
So very exciting. Okay, so here we have again this example of a tray. Do you do bags, pouches, any of this kind of stuff yet? It's probably coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, so our molded starch technology, which is what we've been talking about, is not going to be in bags. It's going to be more of a styrofoam replacement product. We do have biopolymers that we currently are manufacturing. So we're manufacturing straws. We will manufacture several other products out of those biopolymers.
Wow, very exciting. Okay, so I don't know if this is a fair question for you, but as a packager, you are on the fringe of all things food. From where you sit, from your lens, the clients that are coming to you, those that are growing, those that are fading away, what are your predictions outside the packaging realm in the food space for the next 3 to 5 years?
God, that's a great question. I think you're going to see more of what you're seeing now. There's going to be more of plant-based proteins that are coming. And that's going to go into a lot of different areas, more so than it is now. Right now, it seems like everybody's trying to use the plant-based to replace meat-based protein.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to see a lot of innovation in that area. Along with that, it's kind of like you're doing something nice for the earth, and then all of a sudden, if you package it in plastic, that's really bad. So hopefully we'll be able to partner with those companies to make sure that it's not just a sustainable product, but also a sustainable packaging for that product.
Are you ready for me to send you clients?
Absolutely.
Okay. This is great. Very exciting for my clients. I have so many people I want to send you. I'm not kidding about that. A couple exit questions for you as we wrap up as well. Okay. You are having a bad day. It's not going the way you thought it was. Is there a phrase that you tell yourself to get yourself back in the game?
Just keep the faith. Everything works out in the end.
I love that expression. I use that a lot as well. Yeah. Keep the faith. It all does work out. You will be where you're meant to be. Yes, and we've got our next person. We're right behind you. Okay, so keep the faith. I love it. You are having a very busy day. No time for lunch. What is your go-to snack?
I'll say blueberries. Yeah.
Ooh, yummy. Okay. I've taken to frozen blueberries. They're like candy. Frozen mangoes too, just like candy. So I like how you roll. Thank you for being with me today. And
I've enjoyed it.
I'm going to send you a bunch of clients.
Please do. Thank you.
Okay, we are on our last stop here at the Buhler train. Can I say that? As we bring in our president and CEO, I'm family here, our president and CEO of Buhler North America. Come join me, you and
Standing boss.
yeah, we're standing, trying to get you front and center here. And let me change the name so that we can see who you are. This is great. So last time we spoke, because we were together before,
Indeed.
we talked about other things than what we're going to talk about today, which is that Buhler, as we've seen from the last 3 people on this show, is really a central figure up and down the supply chain, adding value and solutions, helping companies get that market share and work and produce to their highest potential. Okay, that's one thing you do, but now you're moving into cultivated meat. I did not see this coming. Me, who kind of knows everybody and talks to everybody, I did not see this coming. It seems like a departure for Buhler. Talk to me about what's going to happen at, let me get the name right, the Cultured Food Innovation Hub.
Yeah, well, we're working with 2 other companies on this, with Givaudan and Migros in Kemptthal near Zurich, building the hub really as a result of looking at, okay, what are the different scenarios going forward? We know that we need to close the gap in terms of protein sourcing by 2050. Still, we're seeing 10 billion people, 2050, 50% shortfall in protein. How do we close the gap? And okay, you've got the high moisture extrusion, but now the fermentation of meats, all those technologies we need to be aware of and be able to be part of. So it's doing that, looking at how can we do it in a different way where we don't bring pressure on the agricultural land as well? Because that's another part of the puzzle, if you like, in terms of how we look at it all. So that really is why we're exploring it. And it is now, we're going to be up and running in 22 with that team. And it's, another exciting piece for us to be dealing with. So it's, at the moment, it's out there. There's a lot of work we've been involved in on different things, and it makes an awful lot of sense for us to partner with Givaudan again on this, and also with Migros, the supermarket local to that area.
In Switzerland, and Givaudan, actually, I spoke with them last time I was here, known for flavors and fragrances, of course, around the world, and also headquartered in Switzerland, if I understand that correctly. So very exciting. So as I think of you again, this central partner to helping manufacturers make the best products that they can, here you're not, if I've got this right, in the Innovation Hub, the vision isn't really to make the products, but to give the structure or the space to innovators to try to figure it out, because we don't quite have the answer yet to cultivated meat. Is that right?
Yeah. As far as well as I understand it as well. So we're both sort of feeling away a little bit here, is that we want the position to be an accelerator. So we can go from startups all the way through to benchtop trials. So they can actually, from, startups, benchtop trials, all the way through to small scale industrial is about where we think it'll end up on this. But so we can prove principles, so we can see what's going on, see if we've got a viable product, see if it's consumers are going to adopt, and go from there. So it is a bit of a different stance to the one you see here in Minneapolis at the moment with Food Applications Center.
Yeah, very exciting. Do you anticipate that small companies will come to you? Might there be an application process? Might be a little bit too early to even say, but how do you think that'll shake out?
Well, we're living and learning on that as well. I think you may be aware we had the startup competition here this summer.
Yes.
And so that startup competition, we really phrased where we asked people to apply with their ideas, and that was working with Cargill, Purist, Givaudan, and ourselves here in North America. And I think we're going to run in that same style where people can apply. We're going to take so many people per year, per quarter, whatever it may be, and see how we progress through on those different things.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I might be. When I think of accelerators, I think of them for plant-based foods. Do I not know of another cultivated meat accelerator? Specific, dedicated to this. I know that there are some accelerators, but I don't think they're dedicated only to cultivated. Do I have that right?
I am with you saying I don't know of anything else. I think, I mean, the partnership in Singapore as well with Givaudan and Buhler, I guess you could say gives that sort of opportunity, but is it an accelerator or is it a innovation space for people to work with the two companies? And
that's you.
That's Givaudan and Buhler together. Yeah. So yeah, okay, I'll go for that. Yeah, I mean, the accelerators I've worked with have been, obviously NC Phil here with Bill. We've got the guys over in Mass Challenge we've worked with on several different things over in Boston, and now we're working much more with Mr. on the West Coast as well in terms of accelerators, but as you say, not really focused on just plant-based.
Fascinating. So Buhler's busy, has their hands in a lot of things. Given what you're investing in now for cultivated meat, what do you think the acceptance will be like from the consumer side? So from a resources side, we keep mentioning here, we're going to be, 10 billion people by 2050. We better figure it out. So we've got to find enough protein for everybody. How do you think people will accept this coming down the pipeline?
So, I mean, really our understanding is, hey, there's a huge amount going on in the marketplace at the moment, a huge amount of investment going into this particular segment. We see a huge amount of curiosity from a consumer. And I think I don't know what the right word is, whether it's overcoming the unknown, I think the curiosity will trump that in the end. And obviously the consumers will be the judge of the product, as is always the case. So we're really looking at saying, okay, there's a number of people out there making this bet. We're part of that team making the bet in terms of where the cultivated meat could be. And we anticipate that consumers driven by purpose will take that product and happily make it part of their diet.
I actually think that it might be more readily accepted than plant-based. And the reason I think this is that sometimes people say, oh my gosh, cultivated meat or fermented proteins in dairy, it's the death of meat and dairy. I actually see it as the natural progression. If you think that 100 years ago, we never pasteurized milk.
Yeah.
And then they started pasteurizing and it was a scandal and nobody wanted it and they resisted it. But then they came around to the health benefits. You wouldn't drink raw milk today. You just wouldn't. And that was only 100 years ago. I think if you can nail taste, and that's why we have accelerators and innovators like Buhler, if we can nail taste, people will just say, why would I do anything else?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be around the taste profiles, and you start to uncover why some of the partnerships are going on in the marketplace, because that becomes a combination of the technology and the ability to really dig down into the flavor profiles and where people are happy on that side. I think the other thing that's interesting to us is there's obviously growth in this. What do we guess at? 10 to 20% of the overall market in another 10 years? Is it faster? Is it slower? But it's so significant. I think when we last met, that Cargill had just made a pronouncement that they felt the USA market would be 10% alternate protein based within 1,000 days.
Within 3 years, and that it would cannibalize meat. Not just that it would be in addition to, which is what you see now in the marketplace, plant-based is growing and meat production is growing, but it would actually cannibalize meat. It was a big statement.
Yeah. And that's, I think, as I said at the time, that's huge to us. You see that with such a company as Cargill backing that opportunity. It's like, okay, that's a good bet. Are we making another good bet on a cultivated meat? I'm pretty sure we are.
Yeah, I agree with you. And so does Boston Consulting Group, and so does A.T. Kearney. We've seen a bunch of studies come out where they're saying that maybe by 2040, cultivated, plant-based, and fermented proteins, all of them together will be 60% of the meat market. So being the majority by 2040. So kind of around the corner in our lifetime.
Yeah, hopefully in my lifetime, but
you'll make it. You can do it.
Keep going. I'm still remembering 100 years ago, Elizabeth.
You have moved from non-pasteurized milk, sir.
Moved on. Yeah.
You have moved on.
I still remember it in the background somewhere, but it's there,
So are you making any predictions about when cultivated will actually be on the shelves?
Oh,
tricky.
Yeah, I'd say beyond 5 years. I think it's going to be in that 5 to 7 year range horizon, because I think getting to right price point, because it's going to be a management of the process and getting to a sensible price point where people will pay a premium for that product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to say 5 to 8 years. I'm with you on that. A last question before we have a couple of quickie exit questions. Last time we spoke, you said something that was sort of the cornerstone of our entire hour together. Just like today, I had interviewed 3 or 4 people, and then you were at the end, and you talked about Buhler's environmental goals and sustainability goals and how important that was to the company as a whole. And then you said, on a personal note, it was very important to you because you didn't want to leave your kids in a situation that you were leaving them in, and then they would be stuck or compromised to get out of. I wondered if you could share with us again the Buhler goals.
So there's a couple of things to this. Is the purpose of the business is obviously innovations for a better world, where we're really trying to drive that. And we have our sustainability goals of 50-50-50, which is 50% reduction in water, waste, and energy. We introduced that in our networking days in 2019, and really we've stood behind that in terms of not waiting for government, but sitting and saying, okay, what can we do? What can we do in our industry to help move that along? We believe Buhler is globally relevant. We think about 2 billion people a day eat something from a Buhler process, and about 1 billion a day are moved by something developed on a Buhler process. So with that global relevance, then comes responsibility, hence 50-50-50. We want to push that. We are pushing that. We have our networking days next year in June in Ortsville again. And again, part of the program will be around that sustainability. Obviously, we'll also have the innovation, the equipment, some of the drivers we're dealing with, but we're not going to hide away from that big statement. I was going to say big, hairy, audacious goal, but And it is, but you have to put it out there to make things move, don't you? I mean, if you made it a 2% move, everybody like, yeah, okay, sure, yeah. So that's important. And I think the phrase I would have used was our CEO, Stefan Schreiber, first made this statement in that we are borrowing this planet from our grandchildren and children, and it's up to us to give it back in a better state than we inherited it. And at the moment, depending on your views and opinions, it might not seem that we're doing the best job we could be doing, but there seems a lot of acceptance of things need to move. So fingers crossed. I personally am doing all I can, and even on smaller levels, to try and push that forward.
It does make a difference, and it does take a village. And we seem to be at a unique time in history when people are open to the message, they're getting the memo, and they want to make a change. And it seems like we're going to have critical mass on change, which is so important.
Yeah. I mean, as we said earlier, consumers are the ultimate judge on some of these things. And I think people are starting to vote with the dollars in that they will pay for alternate protein products. I mean, you see all the restaurants now are now offering there's an alternate protein burger on the menu. 3 years ago, you never saw it. And it's happening, and more of them are getting more interesting. And yeah, it's out there. The future is now.
You're right. It's happening at a pace that really wasn't anticipated. It's happening very quickly. I'll also say that consumers can only make that choice with their dollars if there's a responsible corporate leader. Without responsible corporations, then they don't have the choice. So it's important that corporations move first if they can. Listen to those consumers. Governments are always, as you noted, the last to move, although the Good Food Institute did recently say that the US government is now giving, I think, 146 billion to sustainable.
Okay, good.
It's too sustainable. I better check my millions or billions. I'm so sorry. I think it's billions. It's a big, no, but it is a meaningful number. It might be millions. Gosh darn it. I will check, everyone. I apologize. 146 million or billion to sustainable foods, and 10 or 11 of that million or billion, which I'm checking on, is going to Tufts University for an alternative proteins research hub from the government. So I think they're starting in the right direction, but they're kind of the last to get on board. So we need leaders like Buhler.
Great. Fantastic. We're happy to do all we can. And even from the executive board, there's a real push, a real desire for us to be at the front of this. And as you can see from what you experienced last visit and this visit, hopefully, we're walking it as well as talking it.
Yeah. Already the change in 3 months. Okay, 2 quickie exit questions. Things are going haywire. You're not having a great day. What's the phrase you say to get yourself back in the game?
Oh, no, I talked about this before I write. So I take 5 minutes and I let it all come out. Don't lift my pen, do what I call creative writing. And I tend to empty my mind onto the page, and I can reflect on what I've written, which may be blah, 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 or it may be something of worth and of note, but at least it stops me, calms me down, and allows me just to put that on a page and wonder what I should do next.
I think that's actually really helpful as a way to process things. That's why I wanted you to repeat it in this interview, because it's a great note for people. Okay, now I did give you advanced warning on this question, because last time I asked it, you weren't so sure. So now I'm going to say, with all the advance notice, it's a busy day. You haven't had time for lunch. What is your go-to plant-based snack?
Okay, so this one comes from, I just managed to go and see my mum and dad in the UK after 20 odd months of being apart. And one of the plant-based snacks that we attacked one night was fish and chips. So I'll take the fish out, and the chips is my plant-based. Chips as in French fries. From the English perspective.
And with those English chips, it's not ketchup, right? It's mayonnaise.
Oh, no, salt and vinegar. Malt vinegar.
I stand corrected. Oh my gosh, malt and vinegar. Oh,
it's very, very nice.
Makes me want to go to the UK. It's coming soon. I want to thank you, Andy Sharpe, but also everyone here at Buhler who's making this open house possible so that we can meet so many different vendors. How many people are here? How many companies are represented here?
I'm not sure about how many companies. We're expecting about 80 different visitors over the 2 days. I think it was just under 50 at lunchtime today had registered and been through. So very successful for us. very, very happy and very, very pleased to see you here again.
I'm always happy to be here. Lots of people running around talking about creative things, working together and seeing what Buhler can do to help them get that market share and make the best products that they can make. I want to thank Buhler and then everyone watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and later on podcasts and Vegconomist, etc. It does take a village for change. So thank you for all you do. I will see everybody next Tuesday. Thanks for listening to the Plant-Based